please welcome to the stage Daniel Herz, President, and Jason Shamus, CEO of the Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey.
Thank you everyone for being here, and Shana Tova. I'd like to welcome our community choir, students from our local Jewish day schools, our Israeli Tzvim, and students from the Kaplen JCC. Would everyone who is able please rise for the singing of Hatikva and the Star-Spangled Banner. That was beautiful. All right. We gather tonight to mark 1 year since the attack that changed the course of Jewish history. 1 year since 1,185 Israelis were murdered. Our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our grandparents, and our children. 1 year since 251 hostages were dragged away from their homes, the Nova Music Festival, and their families, and taken into Gaza, and many of them killed. Over 100 still held hostage. 1 year since our sense of safety was shattered and our world broken.
Tonight, our gathering takes place during the Yamim Noraim, the 10 days of awe between Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and the holiest day of the year, Yom Kippur. These are the days where we are instructed to take account of the past year, of our world, of our communities, and our souls. The Hebrew word for awe, norah, also means terrible. And this year's accounting is so much more terrible than our community has faced in the past years.
We all know how painful this year has been for our people, for each one of us, with so much tragedy and so much suffering. But our community remains strong, unbreakable. Thousands of us came here together 3 days after October 7th to grieve. We then joined hundreds of thousands in Washington, D.C. to stand together for Israel. Jewish Federation of Northern New Jersey is honored to be partnered with over 100 organizations to make this evening possible. And I especially want to thank Steve Rogers and the entire JCC team for being our home here. Our partners include synagogues, day schools, agencies, organizations, all who have come together with one singular objective: to be united together as one community.
When we gathered on October 10th, just 3 days after those horrific attacks, I don't think we could have imagined that standing here 1 year later, so many hostages taken would still be held in captivity, and that the war between Israel and Hamas will have expanded to include 7 fronts, including those with Hezbollah and Iran itself. Nor could we have imagined that anti-Semitism would emerge with such a vengeance, taking over our college campuses, infesting some of our city councils, infiltrating our K-12 schools, and eruptions at school board meetings, and so on and so on.
On October 7th, we saw the strength and courage of our Israeli brothers and sisters. We saw heroes rush to save lives. We witnessed incredible bravery. And for the last year, we've watched our IDF fight for Israel and the Jewish people. And over the past year, we have stood together, Israeli, American, religious, and unaffiliated, as one community to help, to keep memories alive, to support families, to combat anti-Semitism, and of course, to bring them home. We are so grateful to everyone who has contributed their time, energy, and love to this effort. Later in this program, you will see images of our community at work. We have found strength that many of us could not imagine in our collective action, forged new alliances, and enlisted the aid of our elected officials. Because of you, Jewish Federation has been there for each of us, and we will always, always keep working for our community.
We'd like to welcome and thank our elected officials who have joined us tonight. We are grateful for their support and their partnership. We especially want to thank our local law enforcement here in Tenafly, led by Chief of Police Thank you. You guys have no idea. We also want to thank County Sheriff Anthony Curtin, the Cresskill Police Department, and Community Security Services for their dedication and services. Now I'm going to ask you to bear with me as I read through the long list of names of elected officials and others who have joined us this evening to share in solidarity and support. And my suggestion is we clap at the end. It's a long list. We have Congressman Josh Gottheimer. All right, you go ahead. He's a local hero here, so give him another round. Congressman Andy Kim. Congressman Rob Menendez. Senator Joseph Lagana. Senator Gordon Johnson. Senator Holly Shapizi. Assemblyman Gary Scher, Assemblywoman Lisa Swain, Assemblyman Christopher Tully, Assemblyman Clinton Calabrese, Assemblyman Bob Auth, Assemblyman Christopher DePhillips, Assemblywoman Shayna Hayter, Assemblywoman Ellen Park. Thank you. Our Bergen County Executive, Jim Tedesco, along with many free commissioners are here this evening, including our own board member, Tracy Zorb. We have a lot of mayors from the municipalities as well, so I want to thank our own mayor here, Mark Zinna in Tenafly, and his council members, Mayor Wilds and the council members from Englewood, Mayor Rottenstreich and the council members from Fairlawn, Mayor DePaula and the council members from Emerson, Mayor Wasser and the council members from the great municipality of Haworth. Thank you. Mayor Bromberg and the council members from Rivervale, Mayor Pagan and the council members from Teaneck, and Mayor, Milan Khan and council members from Wyckoff. We also have representatives from all these towns: Allendale, Closter, Elmwood Park, Ridgewood, River Edge, Harrington Park, Woodcliff Lake, Fort Lee, Hoboken, Tenafly, Upper Saddle River, and Wayne. Thank you. And lastly, I want to thank a chief of police and another friend of ours from Teaneck, Andrew McGurr. That is an incredibly long list. Thank you. As a community and as a people, we had made Am Yisrael Chai more than just a slogan. It is our moral compass. We must never lose hope. No matter how dark the days are, no matter how much the values of humanity and empathy seem to have occupied. We must continue to do what we've been doing for a year, saying prayers, writing letters, hanging up posters, wearing yellow ribbons or dog tags, lighting candles, participating in Run for Their Lives, hosting families of hostages, leaving open seats at our Friday Shabbat tables, and creating public displays of empty tables in our towns and at Shabbat, and everything else that shows how a piece of our own heart was taken on that day.
And I want to thank Jason, you, and the entire professional team at Jewish Federation for helping organize tonight. Thank you. Now, I want to share a personal story from earlier this year when I was in Israel. I visited Mount Herzl. Our tour guide was a 19-year-old young woman doing her military service. As we stood looking at the wall with all of the names of soldiers who have died since October 7th, and then watching groups of young soldiers walking by us, our tour guide said, "This is our generation's battle." And for the next hour, as we toured, that statement sat with me. It struck me. And I said, these kids, I thought to myself, these kids are fighting our battle for Israel, our battle for being Jewish. And then I realized, yes, and this is all of our battle. We must all do our part, and we are, and we will, together. Thank you. The Jewish story will continue to be written, and we are the ones who will continue to write it. We have no choice but to go forward, and we will together. Let us all have a new year of health and happiness, freedom and safety in Israel, America, and around the world. And may we be liberated from anxiety and fear. We are one community. Shana Tova. Am Yisrael Chai.
The presentation you're about to see contains actual sounds and images from October 7th. This material may be emotionally challenging or triggering for some individuals.
ضلك جاري يلا 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 امشي دقيقة هاي جبنا وهاي شبابنا اهدى روح عدل ابراهيم يلا شيل يلا هاي الشارع يلا يا زلمه يلا يسعد دينك يا راجل يلا وحش والله انك يو يقيم عليك بس يو تعال يقيم عليك نوخين
איפה אתם? יואו, מה מצליחים מפה?
הכל טוב, הכל טוב. אתם באים?
שום דבר לא יפגע בי, שום דבר. לא אישה, לא כדור מחבלים, שום דבר. כי ככה נשבעתי לאחי אחותי, להורים. ובכיתי בלילות ודאגתי בימים, כי פחדתי שמשהו יפגע בהורים. וקולו של אבי מהדהד לי בראש כבר שנים.
Please welcome to the stage Rabbi Binayamin Krohn, President of the RCBC, and Rabbi Jennifer Schlossberg, President of the NJBR.
I think we all need to take a breath after that. I'm wondering if you're feeling a little bit of what I'm feeling. As many of us return to work today after Rosh Hashanah, normally we would exchange pleasantries about how our holiday was. Normally we celebrate as the reset of the new year is cleansing. But instead, we entered today, our first, for many of us, work day after Rosh Hashanah, with a heavy weight to our day, a weight that is hard to put to words. As with many tragedies, today we revisit where we were when we heard about what transpired in Israel on October 7th. It's okay to relive that day. As with many traumas, we grieve and mourn. That's okay too, and very warranted. As with many triggering experiences and anniversaries, we are still angered at what happened. How the joy of our Simchas Torah was turned on its head. Anger, too, is okay. As with any experience where we feel like we are out of control, some of us pray to a higher power. Please do. These feelings are all okay because there's no instruction booklet on a community-wide mass devastation to our people. These feelings are all okay because the world is not okay. Our people, the captive hostages, the state of Israel, the death and trauma to innocent civilians, the precarious war in the Middle East, all of these are not okay. But my friends, I believe, v'chol ma'aminim, and all of us should believe that things will one day be okay, that justice one day will be reached, that healing and peace will one day be achieved. We believe in the possibility of these things, as being a resilient community is what has held us together as a people. It is so meaningful to me that I, as president of the North Jersey Board of Rabbis, can stand on this stage with Rabbi Krohn, president of the Rabbinical Council of Bergen County, and join together for moments of reflection and remembrance. And this is what will sustain our larger Jewish community. Whether Democrat or Republican, conservative, reform, reconstructionist, Orthodox, or other, Achenu Kol Beit Yisrael, we stand in solidarity and commit to believing in a better world. I believe that better world starts with each of us. On Rosh Hashanah, I announced in my shul that the owner of Sukkah Jewelry in Glen Rock, the town in which I'm a rabbi, Supriya Kapoor, a resident who is not Jewish, would light 101 candles in the storefront of her business last night to represent the 101 hostages who are still missing. And she would light one larger candle for those who perished on or since October 7th. As I pulled my car up to the parking spot near her store and saw the candles illuminating in the window, I instantly was overwhelmed. Goosebumps of appreciation, of love from an ally who wants to show that she cares. And before I knew it, as if it were beshert, there coming out of her car was Supriya to give me a hug. Just the two of us on the sidewalk. We stood in a picture together showing our joint allyship. If she's in the audience tonight, I thank you. It was the purest act of chesed. There are people who support us. Let us lean on them, on each other, and on our tikva, our hope. In the conservative Masorti movement's online October 7th commemoration last night, it was shared that hatikva, the hope, is not only our national anthem for Israel, it also embodies the essence we share as a nation and serves as our ultimate source of strength. So let us hope and let us believe. Holy One, source of blessing, Chamol al ma'asecha, have compassion on us. As we embark on this next year and mark this devastating day of October 7th, allow us to share our purest of feelings and know that all of these feelings are okay. And please give us the strength so that v'chol ma'aminim, all of us believe, yearn for, work towards, and hope together for better tomorrows. Amen.
It is always a special opportunity to share the stage with Rabbi Schlossberg. And it is so special to be here with all of you this evening. And I have to say that I'm also humbled to stand in the presence of the Alexander family who's here with us tonight. A few months ago, there was a group from Florida that did what many of us did this year. They took a mission to Israel. And they went to Tel HaShomer Hospital to visit brave soldiers who were injured in battle. One entire floor was dedicated to soldiers who had lost a limb in the war, amputees. And as the group went from room to room, visiting soldiers, offering their thanks and their appreciation, which is unending, they noticed one gentleman also with a prosthesis, but he looked like he was in his 70s. And they were confused because he could not have been fighting in this war. The man noticed their puzzled look and he said to them, "You're right. You're probably wondering why I'm here. I come here every day because 50 years ago in the Yom Kippur War, I lost my leg. And so I come here every day to tell the soldiers that their lives are not over. I was able to marry and I built a family, I have a job, I have children and grandchildren. They can hear from me something they can't hear from anyone else. And that's why I feel that it's my responsibility to be here for them every single day." There's a story that's told at the very, very end of the Torah. It takes place, in fact, on the last day of the life of Moshe, of Moses. And on that day, as the Jewish people were preparing to head into the land of Israel for the very first time, something they would do without him. He wanted to share with them one more lesson. And at that moment, at the beginning of Parshat Nitzavim, Moshe tells the entire nation gathered together that it's time to create a new covenant, a new brit with Hashem, with God. And many of the commentators are confused. After all, we made our most important covenant with God at Mount Sinai, where he gave us the Torah and we accepted. What more could there be? What was this new covenant, this new agreement? And I recently heard a beautiful answer. At Mount Sinai, we're told that the Jewish people were incredibly united. The rabbis tell us that the Jewish people were like ish echad belev echad, like one person with one heart. And that achdut, that unity, was very special. Every person at Sinai was able to respect and to tolerate every other Jew, even if they didn't observe like them, even if they didn't look like them. This new covenant, however, took the idea to a new level. It was a covenant that's referred to in Hebrew as Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Bazeh, that every Jew is responsible for every other Jew. As the Jewish people were about to leave the desert and enter the land of Israel, they would be on their own. There was no more manna from heaven or clouds of glory to protect them. They would have to build an economy, a society, an army, a state. And to do that, says Moses, it's not enough simply to tolerate each other. The Jewish people, as they would begin to build a country and a society, needed to learn to take responsibility for each other. They needed to shift from a place of achdut, or unity, to a place of arevut, of taking responsibility and care for every other Jew. Almost exactly 1 year ago, we stood on this campus, shocked and dismayed at the absolutely indescribable horror that befell our brothers and sisters in Israel. And we came together united with incredible achdut, incredible unity, to pray on behalf and to prepare to respond as a community. And then all of us, our entire people, including every person here, moved from a place of achdut, of unity, to arevut, to taking responsibility for each other. From the millions of dollars that were raised, thousands of letters and packages and duffel bags sent to soldiers, missions to Israel, advocacy here in the United States, we learned what it means to respond, yes, shomer achi anochi. I am my brother and my sister's keeper. And if there is nothing else we learned from this past year, and we have learned a lot, it is that we as Jews, not Jews of any particular denomination or type of observance, just Jews, all members of one nation, are more ready than ever before to feel that sense of arevut, of responsibility, to care for each other. And being here tonight in this overflowing space, I wish you could see what I could see, offers me, and I hope you as well, some sense of comfort and definitely a feeling of hope. So that even as our enemies will continue to try to destroy us, not only will we not cower, not only will we rise up to defend ourselves, but we will become more united, more connected, and feel even more responsible for one another. And the merit of this beautiful gathering of all types of Jews united as one people. May God bless all of us with a much better year this year, one in which our soldiers return home safely and every single hostage is returned to their families, a year in which every Jew in Israel and throughout the world can live in peace and security. And so I ask you to join me as I recite Psalm 121, Tehillim Kuf Chaf Aleph, as we pray united as one. Shir Malos, Esan El Harim, Meyayin Yavo Ezri. A song for ascent, I turn my eyes to the mountains, from will my help come. Ezri mi'im Adonai, Osei Shamayim va'aretz. My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. Al yitein lamod raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. He will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan, shomer Yisrael. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha, al yad yaminecha. The Lord is your guardian, the Lord is your protection at your right hand. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, v'yareach balayla. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai yishmorcha mikara, yishmor et nafshecha. The Lord will guard you from all harm, he will guard your life. Adonai yishmor tzeitzcha voecha, meyata v'yadolam. May the Lord guard you going and coming now and forever. Thank you very much.
Please join us in welcoming Inbal Raha from Kibbutz Mei Falsim.
Shalom everyone. My name is Inbal Rahaf and I'm 17 years old from Kibbutz Mefalsim, just 1 mile from the Gaza border. I live with my family, my mom, dad, 2 older brothers who are serving in the IDF, and my little sister. Since I was 8, I've been training and practice in triathlons, which include swimming, cycling, and running. Every Saturday morning, my group and coach gather for practice. On that fightable Saturday, we met at 6 a.m. in Kfar Aza, 5 teenagers and our coach. At 6:25, we started our ride. Just 3 minutes later, my friend and I saw Iron Dome interception. No alarm sounds, which was unusual. I thought it might be a system error, unaware that sirens were blaring across Israel. We quickly stop, go down, and follow protocol, hands on our heads. One teammate panicked. He was shaking and crying as we tried to reassure him. With the rocket still firing, we decided to seek shelter outside Kibbutz Saad, where my aunt lives. At 6:31, I received a call from my dad. He offered to pick me up, but I was unaware of the danger and told him not to worry. Moments later, my mom called. Her voice angel. Stay in the shelter, and if you need to, go to Saad. Call the police now. Confused. I wonder why I would need police protection. She had heard gunshot during our call, and knew terrorists had breached the fence and were near me. I tried calling the police 3 times, but they didn't answer. Their station had already fallen to the terrorists. At 6:55, a friend messaged our group chat about a breach at the Kim Beach. It was the first time I learned about terrorists. My friends were panicking, but I thought it was just a minor incident. At 7:10, Zohar and Itai, 2 members of our riding group, were picking up by a father to go home. Moments later, Shachar, who was with us in the shelter, whispered over the phone to Zohar, who had told him they had been injured by terrorists. I thought he was joking, but 7 minutes later, I received a call from Zohar. He was panicking, saying, "Inbal, they shoot us. There is blood everywhere. My dad, I'm scared." My mind couldn't grasp it. I asked if he was joking, but when I realized he wasn't, I tried to comfort him. We ended the call, and I felt completely helpless for the first time. Panic set in as my legs shook with fear for my friends, not realizing I was in danger too. I texted my dad about Zohar and the gunshots, and he replied, "Be patient." "What patience, Dad? Help them." Shortly after, Shachar was picking up and thankfully reached home safely. When he left, our coach, Judith, told me and Dan to go to my relatives in Kibbutz Saad, meaning we had to cross the Highway 232, now known as the Highway of Death. I didn't understand the chaos around me. I saw an ambulance in front of Kfar Aza, but couldn't imagine what was happening inside. Dan injured me. "Put on your helmet and glasses. Let's go." I listened to Dan. Put on my glasses to protect my eyes. Dan and I rode as fast as we could to my aunt's house in Saad. When I arrived, I was in tears, my voice shaking. My aunt, Anat, was shocked and unaware of the danger. At 7:27, Dan and I slumped into chairs, adrenaline still pumping, As we explained what had happened, the terrifying reality snuck in. We were surrounded by terrorists. While Dan slept to escape the chaos, my cousin and I were restless. I took a knife into my sleeve, grasping for something that might make me feel safe as fear clutched my heart. When my dad called, his soft voice chilled me. "Inbal, we'll talk later. Everything is fine." But my mom had just whispered over the phone that our family was in the bomb shelter. My brother Gil, unarmed, was holding the door tight, and my dad was at the window with a gun. In that moment, I realized how truly dangerous it was. They could come for me, hurt me, or take me away. Panic washed over me, pushing me into the bomb shelter, clinging to hope I was safe within those walls. I later learned that the kibbutz was spared. A tank had taken care of the threat, but at that moment, the fear felt overwhelming. As Shabbat dragged on, I remained inside, knowing that if my parents had come for me, we might not made it back home. It was only on the morning of October 8th that they finally arrived, pulling me back from the age of chaos. I had spent the Shabbat away from my family, gripped by a fear that I might be the only survivor. When my brother texted me that he and my mom were on the way, I felt an urgency to leave. I remember seeing my mother, her face pale and tears filled, struggling to describe the horrors they witnessed on the roads. The sounds of war and explosions from Kfar Aza serve as haunting reminder of that nightmare just outside our door. All I wanted was to escape, to feel safe, and to cry. I hadn't allowed myself to break down on the 7th when I needed to be strong for Shachar, Judith, Dan, and my cousins. As I got into my mom's car, the tears finally came. I couldn't stop crying, releasing all the fear and sadness I had held in. My brother Gil and Mom enjoined me not to look up, to shield myself from the horrific sights outside. But I couldn't help it. What I saw was horrifying. When we finally arrived home, my father and brothers were in their uniforms, preparing for the next battle. My mother, sister, and I were supposed to evacuate, but as we sat on the balcony, I begged my parents not to leave. I had finally made it home and felt safe for the first time. But my sister wanted to leave, and with a heavy heart, I agreed. We moved from a friend's house in the Arava to hotels in Netanya and Herzliya, each a new part of our ongoing nightmare. Still, I hold on to hope that one day we will truly feel safe at home again. I'm here today to share my story of what happened on October 7th and to show that mine is just one story of so many stories from that day, and each of one's stories could have had a very different outcome. I am grateful that my family is safe, and 1 month ago, we returned home. My brother right now are fighting in Lebanon. I am also here to make sure we all remember that the hostages are still in Gaza and they need to come home now. Thank you for inviting me to speak. It's an honor to be here. Am Israel Chai.
please join us in welcoming IAC Councilmember Tal Mor.
Shana Tova, good evening. Steve, members of the board of the JCC, Jason, Daniel, the members of the board of the Federation, thank you for your embrace and love over the past year for the Israeli-American community. I don't think we could have been as strong as we're trying to be without you. So thank you very much. Today in Israel, missiles were being fired as far away as from Yemen. Israelis needed to flee to shelters, and there were calls on loudspeakers in Gaza that weren't for peace or coexistence. We are in a lot of pain today and very angry as our hearts bleed for the souls of those we lost in the past year, victims of October 7th massacres, hostages we lost, our fallen IDF soldiers, victims of terror attacks, all whose lives were cut short, and we grieve with the bereaved families. We all pray that the hostages that remain in Gaza remain strong and resilient in the face of their captors that keep them. And we must do everything in our power to bring them home now. We are witnessing today a more emboldened enemy, both here and abroad. We're often gaslit by people who continue to tell us lies about how the IDF defends our homeland. And so as difficult as it is for me to be here on this stage in front of so many people, I'm going to harness the love and power of two heroes. Roni Eshel. Roni was the beloved niece of Hila Leumi Levy, the IAC Jersey Regional Director. Many of you heard the horrors of how Roni perished, but how many of you heard the audio of how bravely Roni was transmitting to her commanders about the breach of the fence by those who perpetrated the massacres of October 7th. Roni's voice is not silent and lives on with us because we all know what she said in her last moments and what she would want us to say and do now. Idan Alexander. Idan, I miss you terribly. Idan is a Tenafly native and an American citizen currently being held in Gaza. Idan is the epitome of bravery. His father, Adi, shared photos with me of Idan at his induction to the elite Golani Brigade. Although he was exhausted, his face glowed with pride and joy, knowing that he would be an amazing soldier for and protective of the Jewish state. As we pray for his release, as I do every day, Idan inspires us all on how to be brave and selfless. Bring him home now. Bring all of them home now. In the United States, we often refer to the World War II generation as the greatest generation for their sacrifices and grit, which resulted in the defeat of the then forces of evil and saving the Western world from tyranny. A true friend and champion of Israel, Douglas Murray, said, "Someday, books will be written about the young men and women of the IDF who are fighting side by side, shoulder to shoulder, with pride, without anger, to defend their homeland, Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, the young men and women of the IDF fighting against this evil today will be the greatest generation of Israel." They are giants among us. We owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude that I fear we may not ever be able to fully repay. So the question is, if never again is now, then who among us is willing to walk in the path of these giants, the brave men and women of the IDF and the greatest generation of World War II before them? Who is prepared to be undeterred, unafraid, to use their time and resources to stop the madness and hatred in the streets of New York, Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, and even here in New Jersey? I assure you that the Israeli-American community in the United States, with the backing of the IAC, will fight unapologetically for the rights of all Jews with pride, no excuses, loud voices, and chutzpah. Join us in the war for good versus evil. In our adopted home of the United States, we will unite and stand shoulders to shoulder with our friends who have a common goal of defeating anti-Semitism and empowering the next generation of leaders. For our part, we are raising our children to be proud Israeli Americans, to be leaders through programs like Etanim, Mishelanu, and the Israeli Scouts, to be grateful that they can fight for their rights in these United States, and to be proud American Zionist Jews. We have been fighting together, and we will continue to fight together with our partners to make sure that in New Jersey, the legislature passes the IRA definition. We must do it immediately. Lastly, the words "excuse me," "sorry," and "don't" are not part of the Israeli vocabulary. Israelis and Israeli Americans must, can, and will do everything necessary to achieve the long-term survival of Israel against all odds, despite the threats and the appeasements. May we all be written in the book of life. Shana Tova.
Israel,
Please join us in welcoming IDF reservist Ziv Rahamim.
Shalom, everyone. First, I would like to thank you for having me here today. My name is Ziv Rahamim. I'm 24 years old, and I grew up in Moshav Mashen, in the Gaza envelope, alongside my 3 younger siblings and 2 incredible parents. My childhood was vibrant. I was deeply involved in our community, participating in the local youth movement, playing sports, and enjoying the outdoors. At 18, like most Israelis, I enlisted in the army. I served in a unit called Duvdevan, an Israeli combat unit. Thank you. First as a combat soldier, and later as a Krav Maga instructor. I definitely learned a lot from these 4 years in the service. I'll go back a bit to when I was 14. I was selected to be part of the Open Hearts, Open Homes program, which connects youth from the Gaza envelope with American families. This is when I met Robert and Stephanie Lau, who became much more than my hosts. They became my family. The experience was amazing, and it opened my eyes to the strength of the Jewish community here. Over the years, my American family and I maintained close contact by phone and a few visits. And in 2023, I returned to the program as a counselor for Open Hearts, Open Homes. This time, leading another groups of teens through the same transformative experience I had. It was a powerful to come full circle, and it deepened my connection to this community even more. On October 6, 2023, Friday night, I boarded a flight. Sorry about that. I boarded a flight to the US, excited for the journey ahead, planning for a long travel. But upon landing, I was greeted with devastating news. Terrorists had breached Israel's borders from Gaza, committing atrocities, killing civilians and soldiers alike, and taking many as hostages. At first, I refused to believe it. It seems too horrifying to be true. But as I saw the footage alongside the other passengers, my disbelief turned to dread. Over 1,400 Israelis were murdered on that day, 2,000 more injured, and over 240 people were taken hostage, from a nine-month-old baby to grandparents and Holocaust survivors. Videos of terrorists shooting soldiers while they were in their beds inside military bases, and civilians being executed in the middle of the street. Clearing a path through all the people, I ran out of the airplane to search for a cell signal and reach my family to make sure everyone was okay. At the same time, I reached the ticket counter and tried to book a return ticket home. My phone was overwhelmed with messages from friends and family looking for me. It took me about 20 minutes of uncertainty until I was able to get my parents on the phone and confirm that everyone was okay. Only then, I felt a brief moment of relief. I stopped for a moment and took a deep breath. From the next 2 hours, I tried to get a return ticket, but all airlines had canceled flights to Israel until further notice. Robert was waiting for me outside the airport at 5 a.m., New York time. It turned out that my father called him before I arrived, updated him on the situation, and asked him not to let me return under any circumstances, at least until they understood what was happening. From the moment I left the airport, I searched for ways to get any ticket back to Israel. I joined WhatsApp groups, spoke with military commanders I know, and friends who might be able to help me to find any available flight. I knew that my unit and team would be called up for reserve duty, but since I wasn't in the country, I would not receive that call. After a very long, complicated day and many efforts to find a solution, I managed to reach a contact at El Al. I secured a seat on an emergency flight back to Israel. A fellow Israeli, someone I had just met through a WhatsApp group, not only helped me to find the seat, but insisted on paying for the ticket. His generosity left me speechless. It was a moment that reminded me how in times of crisis, which really come together, strangers united by a shared purpose. The journey back was filled with powerful moments that made me grasp the gravity of the events. I saw families weeping over news of casualties or relatives who had been brutally murdered. I met fellow soldiers who had dropped everything, family, trips, work, to return home and defend Israel. My father met me at the Ben Gurion airport, and as we drove home, he told me about the atrocities that had occurred across the Gaza envelope, news I had missed while I was on board the flight. The brutal killings, organ mutilations, babies burned, the Nova Festival massacre, and the horrific rapes of Jewish women and men. What I felt in that moment is beyond words. When we got home, I hugged and kissed my family and began to get my gear together for the reserve. After a few hours, I received an approval to join my team who had gathered and was preparing to enter the Gaza Strip. Over the next month, we fought fiercely in Gaza and later in the northern border against Hezbollah. Every mission was challenging, but we fought with unwavering determination, knowing we were protecting our families, our homes, and our future. During our operations, we faced significant losses. One of them, which I'll share with you, was a very painful event for my battalion. In this incident, 10 soldiers, led by the troop commander, entered a location where they knew there was a shaft leading to a tunnel. And from it, terrorists would come out, attack our forces, and crawl back under. The room inside the house with the shaft was booby-trapped. While the team was scanning the area, they discovered the shaft in one of the rooms and a camera watching at them. Seconds after entering the room, the bomb exploded. In this incident, 4 soldiers were killed on the spot, including the troop commander, and 6 others were severely injured. The evacuation of the wounded was a difficult and painful event during a long battle, but it was a harsh reminder of the cost of defending what we hold dear. Still, we pressed on. We knew what was at stake. After months of intense combat in Gaza, I had a brief respite at home. My battalion completed its mission and received a new date for the next reserves, this time defending the northern border. After 2 months of trying to establish a new routine back home in all the chaos, we were back in a new front. Although this front was different, fighting with the support of advanced technologies rather than face-to-face combat, the intensity was just as real. Daily missiles attacks, suicide drones, and RPGs bombarded our positions. In cooperation with other units and various of technologies, we also destroyed infrastructures and managed to eliminate many of our enemies. This time, Hezbollah terrorists. We knew we were standing strong, not just for Israel, but for something much greater, the protection of our way of life. One moment stands out among the many events we faced. A suicide drone launched 2 missiles directly at our position. 3 soldiers were injured, one of them badly. He received a life-saving treatment from the paramedic on site. In July, I completed my reserves once again until the next time. There were moments in the reserves that reminded me how much this fight is shared by all of us, no matter where we are. On the northern border, our kitchen was hit by a missile and burned completely, so we couldn't cook our food for ourselves. Every day, the food had to be brought to us from outside, passing through dangerous and exposed routes to reach the outpost. On one occasion, we received sandwiches with pile of letters written by volunteers from the US that came to Israel. They packed them that same day. In most of the letters, the message was very clear. Their words: "We are behind you and will always support you. Thank you." Some were even written in Hebrew and included their names or communities. It was small acts like this that gave us the strength no matter the hardship we faced. Today, the war continues on multiple fronts. In Gaza, in Judah and Samaria, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Iran, and Lebanon. But we stand strong and more united than ever. The fight is not just for the land of Israel, but for the Jewish people around the world. The fight against anti-Semitism and hatred has no borders. And in this battle, we are bonded by our shared identity. We may not share the same physical home, but we are one people. That bond is what gives us the strength to keep going. I want to take this moment to thank you. During the fighting, my friends here in the community called me and asked me repeatedly how they could help. Or, Ziv, we're sending a plane with supplies. What can we send you? As if sending a plane full of combat gear and warm clothing is a completely normal thing to do. During the fighting period, since October 7, I saw dozens of donations and people who were an integral part of the fight. Your support during these difficult times has been overwhelming. You have shown that we are never alone in this fight. Your generosity, whether through words of encouragement or action, has made a lasting impact on all of us. One message I would like to leave you with. We cherish life, and despite everything, we will continue to fight for it. We are here to stay. We are strong, united across the world, whether in Israel, here in the United States, or any other place in the world. We are one people, and together we will always stand strong. Am Yisrael Chai.
Please welcome to the stage Cantor Netanel Herstick.
Please rise and join me to sing the prayer for the IDF. We can start the music already. To sing to the IDF, which we're so proud of. They restore our dignity and they make us proud and strong. So join me. מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל.
אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, יעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב.
And now we'd like to welcome Yael and Adi Alexander of Tenafly, parents of hostage Idan Alexander.
Shalom. Good evening. I'm Yael Alexander, and I'm here with my husband Adi and our children Mika and Roy. We've called Tenafly home for many years, and being here tonight, surrounded by our community, is where we need to be. You have shown us so much love, kindness, and unbelievable support over the past year. And tonight we are here together, standing for Idan and the 100 other hostages still being held in Gaza. Remembering the 1,200 people who were murdered that day, including 300 soldiers and 46 Americans. Idan grew up here in Tenafly. He graduated from Tenafly High School, and this place shaped to who he is. It gave him a sense of belonging, a love for life, and a connection to people. He was always full of energy, wherever he was parachuting, cliff diving, or spending spring breaks in Long Beach Island. Idan is the light in our family. He is a devoted older brother to Mika and Roy, and always the friend you could count on, with a heart full of love and joy for the people around him. After graduating, Idan made a decision that changed all of our lives. He decided to move to Israel. He believed with every fiber of his being that this was his path, that this was where he could make a difference. He chose to join the Golani Brigade 51st Battalion, and we supported him every step of the way because we knew how important it was to him. It was something he believed in deeply. Adi and I visit him every month, giving him all the love and support we could as he navigated the challenges of the military. In August, after completing his 8-month training, he came home to visit us. Having him home, seeing how strong and proud he was, meant everything to us. Those moments together were precious. I promised him I would visit again for Sukkot. I flew to Israel and spent time with him in Tel Aviv. We laughed, talked, and shared stories, and then just 4 days before October 7th, he went back to his base. That Saturday, October 7th, Idan called me. His voice was shaking. He told me he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The sharp nail had hit his helmet, but he's okay. I told him, please protect yourself, be safe, and I'm here with you. That was the last time I heard my son's voice. I called Adi and I told him he had to come to Israel with the kids. We had to be together and we had to find out where Idan was. At that point, we knew nothing about his situation, nothing about what had happened. For 5 long, agonizing days, we didn't know anything. We lived in fear and desperation, not knowing whatever Idan was alive. And then, on the 5th day, the army told us that Idan had been kidnapped to Gaza. Our heart shattered. In January, a small light appeared. People who had been released from Hamas captivity mid-November told us about Idan. They told us he was strong. They said he encouraged others, comfort them, calm them. One woman said he smiled. His smile gave her so much comfort that she asked if she could hug him. He talked to them about us, about his family, about me in Tel Aviv. Hearing that gave us hope. He told us that Idan was still alive, that he was fighting, even in the darkest of circumstances. And so tonight, we want to thank our community from the bottom of our hearts. Over this long 12 months, you've held us up when we felt we couldn't stand. You fed us from your homes, embraced us with your hearts, and given us the strength to keep going when the pain felt too much to bear. But we must remember that Idan is not the only one. There are still 101 hostages in Gaza, including 7 Americans. We cannot stop. We must continue to fight for their release, and we must make sure our leaders are doing everything in their power to bring them home. In my family, when someone leaves the house for a long trip, we stand by the door and pray the Birkat Kohanim. My father would always give this blessing to Idan before he left for the army. And it was the same last time he left home. That memory stays with me, a blessing of protection and hope for his safe return. I would like to invite all of you now to join me in this prayer for Idan and for every hostage still waiting to come home. יברכך אדוני וישמרך, יאר אדוניו פניו אליך ויחונך, יישא אדוניו פניו אליך וישם לך שלום, ושמו את שמי על בני ישראל ואני אברכם. Thank you. I love you all. Thank you.
please welcome to the stage Kaplen JCC CEO Steve Rogers.
I want to first take a moment to thank my friend Jason Shamus and his incredible team at Jewish Federation. From the minute Jason called me and said that Federation wanted to have tonight's commemoration at the Kaplen JCC, it has been a remarkable example of the power of friendship, unity, and community. By double, this is the largest gathering in the 74-year history of the Kaplen JCC. And so many here at the Kaplen JCC and Federation work tirelessly together. To all of you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Tonight, we gather with heavy hearts and resolute spirits to remember and honor the victims of October 7th. A day of celebration was transformed into a frenzy of bloodlust and unbridled savagery. How can it be that the horrors that befell us that terrible morning was a full year ago? How can it be that Adon Alexander and 100 others remain imprisoned in unimaginable conditions, their fates unknown, as the war for their liberation continues? Yael, Adi, Mika, Roy, your community does indeed stand with you. October 7 is a day etched in history as a tragedy of immense proportions, where innocent lives were tragically lost and the fabric of a holy community was irrevocably altered. As we remember those murdered, injured, and held hostage, we also pay tribute to the resilience and strength that has emerged in the wake of such profound loss. Israel's courage shines as a beacon of hope and determination. The resilience demonstrated by the Israeli people, their unwavering commitment to security and peace, and their strength in the face of unfathomable hardship is nothing short of extraordinary. If October 7th taught us the importance of confronting genocidal anti-Semitism, Israel's determined response has conveyed another lesson. Betting against Israel is a losing proposition. Today, as we commemorate this tragic anniversary, we reaffirm our commitment to stand with Israel. And we reaffirm our commitment to do everything possible to ensure a future where peace and security are not just aspirations, but realities. And as we remember and reflect, we look forward with hope and optimism. The spirit of resilience that defines Israel is not just about surviving, but thriving. We envision a future where joy and celebration once again fill the streets, where the music and laughter of a vibrant nation echo far and wide. Together, let us look forward to a time when we will come together, not only in remembrance, but in celebration of a future we will shape together, a future we will shape with our hearts, a future we will shape with hope, and a future we will shape with courage. A year on, the fight continues. The fight to bring our hostages back to the loving arms of their families, the fight to return tens of thousands to their homes in the north and by Gaza, the fight to eliminate our enemies, and the fight to live in peace. The verdict of history is that cultures that worship death die, while those that sanctify life live on. That is why we survive, while the great empires that sought our destruction were themselves destroyed. Once again, history will repeat itself, and we will dance again.
They went to dance. They went to celebrate life, love, peace. And they did. They danced through the night, laughing, smiling, celebrating. They danced full of joy and anticipation to see the sunrise. But that sunrise was darker than any night. At 6:29 a.m., the music stopped and time stood still. Dancing turned into running. Laughter turned into cries for help. Shouts of pain and misery. Celebration turned into a massacre. For 383 people, the music has stopped forever. For 44 other people, the light has been taken away. But those who survived dance again. And we will all dance again. We will dance again for those who cannot. We will dance again for us. We will dance again because it is our duty as a community to always find the joy. Our people and our country are built on hope and resilience. And for that, and because of that, we dance again.
אם לא נשכח תמיד להיות מאוחדים, עם ישראל חי, בעליות, בירידות, גם בשעות הכי קשות, הקדוש ברוך הוא שומר עלינו, אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה, תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו. אנחנו שמחים ונרגשים לבשר לכם כי 4 חטופים חולצו בשלום ובחיים. אז מי יכול עלינו? כי אין לנו עוד מדינה, תעשה שלום בינינו, שמור על ילדינו, כי לא עבדה האמונה. עם ישראל חי. כי עם ישראל חי.
Welcome back to the stage, Jason Shamus, Jewish Federation CEO.
Thank you. This is it. Many of you know I usually close these things, so you're probably feeling a little bit of relief. I'm going to go off script. Because this is now the part of the evening where I thank people for their incredible hard work and dedication in making this happen. And I'm going to thank my good friend Steve because he spoke so nicely earlier. But Steve and I often get a lot of credit, sometimes blame too, for the work that others do. And so I really want to acknowledge and thank the staff of Federation and of the JCC. And I'm gonna name names tonight because they deserve it for the work that they did. We have Naomi Knopf, Federation's Chief Impact Officer. Dalia Zager-Levy, who just apparently got off a plane from Israel herself. She's Federation's Director for Center for Israel Engagement. My neighbor and friend, Sue Gelsey from the Kaplen JCC, the Chief Engagement Officer. Judy Nahari, who let me use her office today, the JCC Chief Program Officer. My friend Molly Olsner, the Kaplen JCC Manager. She's the Managing Director of Israeli Culture and Engagement. Federation's Director of Security, Tim Terrell, who helped coordinate. And Oren Raz, the Kaplen JCC Security Director, who works in so many of our agencies. They deserve the bulk of the credit and the thank you. I also want to just thank Sandra Fathi from Tenafly for sharing these incredible art pieces commemorating October 7th. Each piece of art tells a unique story with a powerful message, and we cannot say this enough. Bring them home. Bring them home. And to the Alexander family, we are with you every step of the way. And now for some final housekeeping. If you're taking a shuttle bus back to the parking lots, your shuttle will pick you up where you were dropped off. This is important, or you will end up in the wrong parking lot. So if you were picked up at Dumbo, you go to Dumbo. We have 2 exits from the field. One is in the area where you entered, and the other one is the exit for the people who parked at 9W and Englewood Health remote parking lot. People who parked anywhere else, as well as those on a synagogue bus or using a ride share, should exit left near the front of the stage. Please be patient when you leave and form lines for the shuttles. There will be plenty of buses. You will not be left here for the night, we promise. Please get home safely, and most importantly, speaking of home, we got to bring them home. Good night.
קוצים זה כל מה שנשאר בי, הפרחים שאת נתת לי קמלו בינתיים, דרכים בהן אני הלכתי